What's going on, friends? Bad Guy Cam back with a different type of video today. We have made some changes to our NPBA team. As you probably saw in the thumbnail, we're going to be talking through some of the free agent transactions that we made to our team. I'm not going to lie, I actually just made this video already, but I was talking way too much and it ended up being like a 30-minute video, and then I realized I'm sharing way too much. This is too much. So we're gonna cut back. We're gonna give just a brief overview of the mons we've dropped and the mons we're picking up. So very excited to talk about this. Just some information, right? So each season we're allowed 5 mons that we can do free agent trades, or we're allowed 5 free agent trades. I guess that's a better way to say it. So basically, we're able to, whatever's not picked from the draft pool, we can drop up to 5 and pick up 5 mons from whatever's available. Technically, you can also trade between coaches, and that's unlimited, but we didn't do any of that. This is all just undrafted mons that we are dropping we're dropping mons from our team to pick up undrafted mons. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. Second thing I wanted to mention was that we are standing at 0-2 right now. This trade happened technically before our week 2 battle that just went up on the channel, but they don't go in effect till week 3, so that's why I've kind of waited to make this video, because I still had to use my old team for the last battle, but moving forward, this is the team that we are going to be using. So let's talk about it. Really where things kicked off, right? I was looking at my team kind of week 1, week 2, after my week 1 battle, as I was prepping for week 2, and I just kind of realized that there were some mons on my team that really weren't going to cut it moving forward. Kind of looking at some of the mons, or some of the teams I was going to be battling in the next couple weeks, even like out through like week 5, week 6. A couple of these Pokemon I actually didn't really see myself bringing. In fact, there were 1 or 2 times where like a couple of these crossed my mind, but again, we're not going to go into too much detail there. But one mon, or the first mon that really kind of kicked all this off was Zarude, right? So I was looking at Zarude, and I was like, it's really just not going to be a great matchup for a lot of my opponents. That 4 times bug weakness is a big deal. It doesn't get the knockoff like I want it to do. Every time I've thought of thinking of bringing it, it'd be more as a choice scarf user. And it really just wasn't doing what I thought it might be doing. Yes, the stat distribution is nice. It's a really bulky mon. It's got great stats with the 120 attack and the 105 speed, but I really wasn't feeling it. And that kind of like kick-started like this whole idea of like, well, maybe I should look at the rest of my team and see what I need to drop, right? The next mon that I kind of was looking at was like, we'll see, but I think I'm going to drop you, is Galvantula. Unfortunately, Galvantula is a great web setter. It's really fast as well. Like Zarude and Galvantula both have like pretty high speed stats at over base 100. But aside from setting webs and maybe being like a choice spec set, I really didn't see a whole lot of value in holding on to Galvantula, because there are other mons that can do what I want it to do without having to spend the points that I needed for Galvantula, right? So Galvantula was with a 9-point mon, Zarude was a 12-point mon, and at this point, like, I have quite a few points I can work with, but as I kept going through my team, there were some other things that I was kind of looking at, and I was like, maybe I'll drop you, and I was in full like refresh mode. Like I was like, hey, what do I need on my team? And next up, unfortunately, we are dropping Dragalge, or Dragalge, however you say that. Still haven't figured it out. Dragalge is a really cool mon. I really like it a lot, and this is the one I'm probably the most broken up to be dropping, because it does some really cool things. It hits really hard with adaptability. It's got a lot more versatility to what it can do. It can run Toxic Spikes. It got Flip Turn, which was a really cool move that it could run with Gen 8. And then having a grounded poison type, always good to get rid of those Toxic Spikes without having to worry about running like a Defogger. Does a lot of really cool things, but in the end, with the changes I was making, I actually found some pretty decent replacements to kind of do what Dragalge did. Again, with being able to kind of redistribute the 8 points that it was worth into some higher tier mons that I feel are going to be a little bit more impactful. With Dragalge, you kind of have to run those choice specs or like a Life Orb to really make it a potent offensive threat, whereas I was kind of looking for something maybe a little bit more wall breaking. that could really come in and just instantly punch some holes. So with not having to run that like the same set every time is where I'm getting. But very sad Dragalge is leaving the team. Very last thing, we did decide to drop Toucanon as well. Unfortunately, I just didn't see it coming very often. I picked it up to kind of be like a knockoff user, a defogger if we're not using Moltres, but in every situation that Moltres wasn't viable, Toucanon really wasn't that viable as well. So that's why we're going to have to be dropping Toucanon. Unfortunately, I did want to kind of try it out, but I didn't really see it being beneficial to my team moving forward. So unfortunately, we are dropping Toucanon as well. So those are the 4 mons we're dropping from the team. We're losing Zarude, we're losing Galvantula, we're losing Dragalge, and we're losing Toucanon, unfortunately. Out of all of these mons, Zarude and Toucanon, I never considered for a team, unfortunately. Okay, I take that back. I considered Zarude for a second, but then decided it just wasn't going to work at all. Galvantula, I considered for a team, but it actually never made it onto a team. And then out of all the mons, Dragalge was actually a mon I had on one of my teams last week, and ended up dropping it for Sylveon, kind of semi before the battle, just thinking I needed Sylveon to do Sylveon things instead of Dragalge doing the things I was going to have Dragalge do. So, and looking forward, they really didn't have too much of a place either. But unfortunately, due to all of this, we are dropping them, and we are going to pick up some new mons. So the first new mon that we're picking up is Obstagoon. So Obstagoon is our Zarude replacement. You'll see that I tried to kind of like all the typings that we're dropping, we are still keeping. So spoiler or hints for the future, you might see some of these typings pop back up. But so we got the dark normal type, so that's the dark type from Zarude, the normal type from Toucanon. Obstagoon is doing more things than Zarude's doing, in my opinion. I've been using an Obstagoon in another division. I've really been enjoying using it. It's got some really great moves like it's got Parting Shot, which is a fantastic move that can really help our team out with like the Como-O or the Mew getting into a position where we can do some sort of setup. It can do the knockoff, which the Zarude cannot do, which I think is a really, really important move for a dark type. It's got really good bulk in general, and then it's got 3 really good abilities in Guts, Reckless, and Defiant. So it gives it a little bit more variety as to what it can do as well. So I thought this was a really great pickup. It was a pretty straight swap. Both Zarude and Obstagoon were 12 points. So I really could have just left it there, but as I was going through my team, like I said, I wanted to make some bigger changes, and the next mon that I decided to pick up is Thundurus Therian. And I'm actually really, really excited to use Thundurus Therian. I've never used Therian form before. I've only ever drafted Incarnate. But that base 145 special attack just hits so hard. And there are so many ways that you can run Thundurus Therian offensively. Like you can set up with nasty plots. You can technically go bulk up. You can run Specs. You can run Scarf. That base 101 speed is a little bit lower than both the Galvantula and the Zarude. But I was kind of looking at the speed tiers, and I don't think it really matters that much because between the 101 and the 120 that our Inteleon is, there's only like 4 or 5 mons that would be able to run an attack boosting nature as opposed to a speed boosting nature. So realistically, it didn't make that much of a difference to me whether I drafted something that was base 101 speed or 112 speed, I believe is what Incarnate is. But there's a lot of things that we're able to do more offensively, and so it's kind of taking that offensive that I was hoping to get from Dragalge, pairing it with the electric type from what we're losing with Galvantula, and getting that Volt Absorbability is really nice as well, just because it does help our Inteleon and our, whatever you call it, Moltres, that's what it is. Helps them out a little bit more, and it only really does share the one rock type weakness with the Moltres. So I feel like in general, like it does synergize really well with our team, and it's going to be able to do some really cool things. It gets U-turn, it gets Volt Switch, it's got some supportive moves, also gets knockoff, things like that. So very cool mon, very excited to be using Thundurus Therian. I think it's going to be a very potent threat that people are going to have to prep for every single week. So that's the first thing, or that's the second mon that we're bringing on. At this point, we've already used a majority of our points, Thundurus Therian being 14 points, so we've used 12, 14, 26. We now have 5 points left in total. So for 3 points, we ended up picking up Meganium, who is coming back from our Season 2 NPBA team, where we did make the finals there. Meganium is a very underrated mon. Lots of good clerical moves or supportive moves. It gets Leech Seed, it gets Dragon Tail to phase in and out, it gets Aromatherapy, it gets Reflective Light Screen, and it's got some really good bulk all around. It's got base 100 in defense and special defense, base 80 in HP. And a very interesting thing to note is it does have base 80 speed as well. So having a fast wall is kind of interesting. You're able to do some really cool stuff, like maybe get like a substitute set up before a mon can attack you, or things like that. It's a very interesting mon to use. I've used it before. It actually came quite a few times. It actually had one hell of a game where it got like 3 kills in one game. So I do know that Meganium is a very good mon to use, and it does replace that grass type where I feel like the quad weakness of the bug on Zarude, and just like the general bulk, but not being able to kind of back it up with anything besides maybe like a jungle healing, which really wasn't going to be doing that much anyway. I feel like Meganium does like all the bulkier stuff better because it does get moves like Giga Drain, Leech Seed to like do passive recovery, but then also gets like Synthesis to actually get some good recovery. So I think Meganium's a little bit better of a pickup here for that. Our last mon that we picked up is Ariados. So with our last 2 points, that's what we grabbed. And I'm actually kind of excited about this pick. I've never looked at drafting an Ariados before because, to be honest, like his stats are pretty terrible. Its the highest stat is base 90 in attack. It's only got base 40 speed, and then its defenses are 70-70 with an HP of 70. So it's very meh. But if you think about what you're using it for, you're using it for sticky webs, you're using it for toxic spikes. That's pretty much like what it's going to do. And if I was going to be doing that with like either Galvantula or Dragalge, especially the Galvantula with the sticky webs, chances are I'm probably going to be running Focus Sash on it anyway. So why can't I run the Focus Sash on the Ariados instead of the Focus Sash on the Galvantula and do the exact same thing, right? It also keeps our grounded poison type so we can get rid of those toxic spikes. And then it actually has a better attack stat with some priority, so it gets Sucker Punch and Shadow Sneak. So where Galvantula also gets Sucker Punch, coming from an Ariados, it's going to hit a little bit harder, so we can actually do a little bit more damage with that second turn if we're using it as kind of just that suicide mon to get up some sticky webs and then do some damage before it inevitably gets knocked out. So that's kind of what we're doing with Ariados. It fills those last spots, so we do get that poison type, we get the bug type. That does also, as a note, quad resist fighting, I believe. I'm just going to double check that, but that does synergize really, really well with our Obstagoon. Yes, so we quad resist grass, we quad resist fighting. It's actually a pretty decent typing to use with the rest of our team. As for just general synergy, I do feel like there were a couple things that were changed with like our synergies. Like obviously now we have 2 mons that are weak to fire, we had 2 mons weak to fire before. We have 2 mons weak to fire now. But we also got rid of a ground type weakness, which would affect like our Aggron, and in general I just feel like the moves that we made are going to be a little bit better for our team. Again, I'm very excited, especially for the first 2 mons of Obstagoon and Thunderous. I do think that they're going to be able to do the things that I really need them to do, which is to pivot around, do a lot of damage, be hard to prep for, and support the other mons on our team, like the Sylveons, the Como-Os, Mega Agrons, Mews. I think that that general core is going to be really, really strong, and people are going to have to prep quite a bit for the rest of the season to take care of it. So that's the new changes to the team. Like I said, these will be effective week 3. So with the next video you see, there's a potential you could be seeing some of these mons against my opponent. So thank you for checking out the video today. Power rankings just went up. I'm pretty happy with where my power rankings are. All in all, I do feel like we ended up 9th out of 16th, which is totally A-okay with me. My alarm's going off. I apologize. But I'm pretty happy with where I'm at because I feel like I did notice some of those things that needed to be changed, and I think I've remedied that. So very happy to see where this team takes me. And yeah, so hopefully you are as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in our week 3 battle. See you, friends.